Good day, everyone, and welcome back to Unpopular Aussie Opinions. We need to talk about the moment that has everyone talking this week. Nathan Cleary, arguably the best player in the game right now, was asked a simple question by a reporter. Who is the greatest of all time in rugby league? And Nathan Cleary, the man who has won 4 consecutive premierships, the man who has dominated Origin, the man who rarely seems rattled by anything, was absolutely speechless. He stammered, he hesitated, and eventually he gave the most politician-like answer you have ever heard about respecting everyone who has played the game. But here is my unpopular opinion, and this is going to make a lot of you uncomfortable. Nathan Cleary knows exactly who he thinks is the greatest of all time. He just cannot say it. And the reason he cannot say it reveals something deeply problematic about his entire career and legacy. Because the honest answer to that question, the answer that Nathan Cleary was desperately trying not to say, is probably his father, Ivan Cleary. And that is a problem. Now, before you lose your minds, let me explain. I am not saying that Ivan Cleary is actually the greatest player of all time. That would be ridiculous. Ivan was a good player, a very good player even, but he was never in the conversation for greatest of all time. But that is not the point. The point is that Nathan Cleary has been raised in a rugby league bubble where his father is the most important figure in his life. His father coached him through juniors. His father brought him to first grade. His father has been his NRL coach for his entire period of dominance. His father built an entire system around maximizing his abilities. So in Nathan's world, in Nathan's understanding of rugby league, his father is the most significant figure. And he cannot say that out loud. Think about what that moment of silence actually represents. Nathan Cleary is standing there, trying to navigate an impossible situation. If he names anyone other than a player from his father's era or his father's circle, it could be seen as disrespectful to Ivan. If he names someone from the current era, he risks looking arrogant or stirring up controversy. If he names himself, which, let's be honest, is probably at least crossing his mind given his success, he looks like the most arrogant player in the competition. So he freezes, because there is no good answer that does not create problems for him. But that freeze, that moment of panic, that tells us everything we need to know about the burden that Nathan Cleary carries. He is not just a rugby league player. He is Ivan Cleary's son. Every decision he makes, every word he says, every opinion he expresses, it all reflects on his father. And that is an enormous weight to carry, especially when you are trying to establish yourself as one of the all-time greats in your own right. Here is the uncomfortable truth that nobody in rugby league wants to acknowledge. We will never truly know how good Nathan Cleary is because we have never seen him operate outside of his father's system. Every single achievement, every premiership, every brilliant performance, all of it has happened under Ivan's coaching. And while that does not diminish what Nathan has accomplished, it does mean that there will always be that question mark. Is Nathan Cleary genuinely the best player of his generation? Or is he the perfect product of his father's coaching genius? And this is where the greatest of all time question becomes absolutely loaded for Nathan. Because if he names someone like Jonathan Thurston or Andrew Johns or Cameron Smith, players who prove themselves under multiple coaches and in multiple systems, then he is essentially acknowledging that those players did something he has not done. They proved their greatness in multiple contexts. Nathan has only ever proven his greatness in one context, the one his father created for him. Now, let me be very clear about something before people start saying I am disrespecting Nathan Cleary. I think Nathan Cleary is an absolutely brilliant player. His game management is world-class. His decision-making under pressure is exceptional. His kicking game is probably the best in the NRL right now. His ability to control the tempo of a match is second to none. He is a phenomenal talent, and he deserves enormous credit for what he has achieved. But that does not mean we cannot acknowledge the unique circumstances of his career. Think about the greatest of all-time candidates in rugby league history. Andrew Johns played under multiple coaches, succeeded with different teams, and was brilliant in different systems. Jonathan Thurston carried North Queensland for over a decade, won a premiership with a team that had no right winning one, and was doing it without the kind of structured dominance that Penrith has. Cameron Smith won premierships across multiple eras, with different coaches, with different playing styles, and maintained excellence for nearly 2 decades. Darren Lockyer succeeded as both a fullback and a halfback, adapted his game multiple times, and was brilliant in different contexts. What do all of these players have in common? They proved they could be great regardless of who was coaching them or what system they were playing in. Nathan Cleary has not had to do that, and because of his father's continued presence at Penrith, He might never have to do that. And that is why the greatest of all time question is so difficult for him to answer honestly. Here is another dimension to this that makes it even more complicated. Nathan Cleary is 27 years old. He is in his absolute prime. He has already won 4 consecutive premierships. If he wins another 1 or 2, if he continues this level of dominance for another 3 or 4 years, he is going to be in the greatest of all time conversation himself. But how can he possibly evaluate the greatest of all time when he is potentially going to be considered for that title? Any answer he gives now could be used against him later. If he says Johns is the greatest and then people start comparing Nathan to Johns, every perceived shortcoming will be highlighted. If he says Thurston is the greatest and his game is constantly compared to Thurston's, that becomes the measuring stick he is judged against. So Nathan's silence is not just about respecting his father or avoiding controversy. It is about protecting his own legacy. It is about not giving people ammunition to use against him in the future. It is about maintaining the mystique and letting his performances do the talking. And honestly, I cannot entirely blame him for that calculation. But it is also deeply frustrating for fans who want to hear genuine opinions from the players we watch every week. But here is where my opinion gets really unpopular. Nathan Cleary's inability to answer this question is also emblematic of a deeper issue with his personality and his public persona. He is so controlled, so measured, so careful with everything he says and does, that we never actually get to see who Nathan Cleary really is. We see the perfect halfback. We see the consummate professional. We see the coach's son who always says and does the right thing. But we never see the real person behind all of that. And that is a shame, because Nathan Cleary could be one of the most influential voices in rugby league. He is the best player in the game. He has the platform. He has the credibility. But instead of using that platform to express genuine opinions, to engage in interesting debates, to give fans insight into how he thinks about rugby league, we get nothing. We get corporate answers. We get media-trained responses. We get a player who is so terrified of saying the wrong thing that he ends up saying nothing of substance at all. Compare that to someone like Jonathan Thurston during his playing days. Thurston had opinions about everything. He would tell you who he thought was the best, who he thought was overrated, what he thought about different playing styles. He was not afraid to be himself in interviews. He was not afraid to show personality. And that made him not just a great player, but a great ambassador for the game. People connected with Thurston because they felt like they knew him, not just as a player but as a person. Nathan Cleary is never going to be that kind of personality, and I think that is a loss for rugby league. We have the most dominant player of this generation, possibly the most dominant player we have ever seen when you consider the sustained excellence over multiple years, and he is completely inaccessible as a personality. We learn nothing from his interviews. We gain no insight from his media appearances. He is a brilliant player and a complete enigma, and not in an interesting way, in a frustratingly corporate way. Here is what should have happened in that moment. Nathan Cleary should have taken a breath and given an honest answer. He should have said something like, I think Andrew Johns is the greatest because of his pure talent and ability to do things nobody else could do, but I also think Cameron Smith's longevity and consistency put him in the conversation, and Thurston's ability to win matches single-handedly was remarkable. That answer acknowledges multiple players, shows that he has actually thought about rugby league history, and does not create any real controversy. But instead, we got awkward silence and a non-answer. And you know what the worst part is? That silence tells us more than any answer would have. It tells us that Nathan Cleary is trapped by his circumstances. He is trapped by being his father's son. He is trapped by being the face of a dynasty. He is trapped by expectations and responsibilities that most players never have to deal with. And while I can empathize with that, I also think it is holding him back from being a true great in every sense of the word. Because being the greatest of all time is not just about what you do on the field. It is also about your impact on the game, your influence on the culture, your ability to transcend the sport itself. And Nathan Cleary, for all his brilliance between the lines, has had almost no impact on the game's culture or conversation. He has won everything there is to win, but he has not changed anything beyond the Panthers organization. He has not shaped the discourse. He has not influenced how people think about rugby league. He has just been really, really good at playing it. So when Nathan Cleary was asked who the greatest of all time is and he could not answer, it was not just an awkward moment. It was a window into everything that makes his career simultaneously magnificent and frustrating. He is so good at rugby league, but he is playing it in such a controlled, careful, risk-averse way that we never get to see what he could be if he just let himself be honest and authentic. And that is my unpopular opinion. Nathan Cleary's silence was not humble or respectful. It was symptomatic of a player who is so wrapped up in protecting his image, his father's legacy, and his own future that he has lost the ability to just be real. And rugby league is poorer for it. If you think I am wrong, let me know in the comments below. And if you want more takes that nobody else is willing to give, subscribe to Unpopular Aussie Opinions, because we are not afraid to say what needs to be said. I will see you in the next one.